On a gray September night in 1993, an armored truck eases down Arbor Avenue in Fairmont City. Now, at first, it was just another cash delivery. Then, an ambulance wails up behind them. Lights, sirens, the works. Seconds later, gunfire shreds the truck. Smoke pours through the windows, and the guards are fighting to stay alive. When the smoke finally clears, all that's missing is a single crate. And the men who stole it, well, they just declared war on the entire city. And the police official who saw the entire thing. I'm Tommy NoPickles, and you're watching Killed Off. In this episode, I'm presenting a case that's pulled from one of our favorite horror and mystery stories, either from TV or film or beyond, but I'm telling it through a true crime lens. I'm going to change the names and the locations so that you don't know what it is right away, but follow along to see if you can recognize the source that I'm pulling from before I reveal it at the end. Two men are driving a Brinks truck. It's one of those giant armored trucks that carries money to and from banks, and they hear an emergency vehicle pull up behind them. They both look at each other and their surroundings to make sure that they're not about to be in any trouble. The passenger says, "Hey man, that's an emergency vehicle. You gotta pull over so they can pass." And so they do, right? But as the emergency vehicle passes the Brinks truck, sirens still wailing just as loud as ever, the passenger window rolls down and out pokes the barrel of a gun, and it starts firing at the Brinks truck. The gunman just starts wildly blasting at the Brinks truck, and the windows are being blown to bits. The whole side of the truck just starts getting lined with bullet holes, and one of those stray bullets blows a tire, and the Brinks truck starts to careen out of control now. It's just rolling down the street on a rim, and now sparks are flying everywhere. The emergency vehicle is able to stay close enough to the Brinks truck to throw a smoke bomb into the shot-out window, and now these huge wafts of smoke are filling every nook and cranny of the truck. The two men are still inside. They're fighting for their lives, and they're terrified. Their truck eventually swerves out of control, the rear doors fly open, and the truck hits the guardrail and flips over onto its side, where it finally screeches to a stop. And the emergency vehicle, now with its sirens off, quickly pulls up right next to it. And this is where we see three men step out of the emergency vehicle, and one of them grabs a sealed box from the back of the truck. It's about the size of one of those, Halloween totes, you know what I mean? I don't think there's Halloween stuff in the crate, but I know you know how big that tote is. It's just for scale. The box gets loaded into the emergency vehicle, and then they drive back, leaving the Brinks drivers for dead. The truck is now turned around, driving back the way it came from with this stolen box. And while there's not a whole lot of traffic on the streets, there are still people walking around and just seeing all of this. One of those people is a detective, and he's a well-known detective at that. He's got a reputation for forensics and, aiding the DA in putting criminals away. His name is Detective Winger. People in the city know who he is. Criminals know who he is. So, Detective Winger, just by pure dumb happenstance, sees all of this go down from about a block or more away. And as the truck is driving away, they're actually driving back toward Winger, and believe it or not, he's able to stop them. He throws his big, fancy overcoat onto the front windshield, and since the men in the truck can't see where they're going now, they quickly crash into the sidewall of the bridge that they're now on. During the crash, the firearm that was used to overtake the Brinks truck gets thrown out of the window, and it's destroyed when it impacts the ground. Imagine a phone from 2007 when it hits the ground and just 4 pieces get launched into every different direction. One of the men hurried to the back of the vehicle, and he opens up the stolen box. But there isn't any money in there. It's a rifle that has very official-looking markings and tags all over it. It's maybe military or something a little more top secret. He hoists the rifle up, he takes aim at Winger, and he sends a shot off. And it makes this electrical beam sound. It connects, and luckily it isn't a fatal blow. It just grazes past part of Winger's side. Now, this obviously catches Winger off guard. I mean, he's good at paperwork, finding clues, private eye stuff. He's not good at shot at with super top secret rifles. So he grabs his arm as hard as he can to apply pressure to the wound, and he jumps overboard right off the bridge. The three men once again leave their victims for dead, and they disappear into the night. Not a soul following them. Let me get a drink. The reports would later show that the stolen rifle was a black market medical grade laser gun. You heard that right. It was stolen by a group that worked for a crime lord named Finch, and it was supposed to be gifted to Finch's brother Matthew, who's a doctor that dealt in some, well, let's just call it less than savory practices. This sparked an argument between Finch and Dr. Matthew. You see, Matthew had been accused of, and very guilty of, malpractice. Reports would later state that the brother claimed he was being taken advantage of by Finch. He was a feared crime lord and all. Anyway, this argument would lead to Finch fainting to the floor in the very room that they were having this heated argument in. Now fast forward a little bit. Finch makes a quick recovery. The public report said that it was an accidental fall. But now remember Detective Winger? He survived the bridge jump and got proper medical treatment as well, and he sets off to task of digging up who those men were and what they were doing with that surgical rifle. He discovers that Dr. Matthew had his medical license revoked but was still practicing, pretty much exclusively for the mob guys, like when they would get hurt, doing illegal things and they couldn't go to a proper hospital, and even grafting on fingerprints pretty much on demand for anyone who worked for his brother. Winger also learns that Finch promised to get his brother's medical license back, but only after he would perform one more risky and very illegal operation. We'll touch more on that here in a minute. And among other discoveries, Winger also finds that Dr. Matthew and Winger's own father went to med school together. Winger had stumbled across old family photos and hospital staff photos of the two of them together before Winger's father was killed, much too early in Winger's life for him to really learn anything beyond just surface-level stuff about his dad. The reports go on to include that Finch had a tumor on his heart, and the only doctor that he trusted to remove it was his brother, Matthew. And Finch knew, rightfully, that if he walked into any regular hospital, he would not walk out. Finch had made a lot of enemies, and every single one of them would pay very large sums of money to make sure of that if it meant them becoming the new boss. Now, Dr. Matthew agrees to perform the surgery on Finch, eagerly awaiting Finch to fulfill his promise of having his medical license be reinstated. That was the deal. The surgery goes well enough. Finch has a successful recovery. Real shame, I know. However, according to official statements, Finch never actually planned on reinstating his brother's license. In fact, wait till you hear this, he was planning on killing him after the surgery. What, did we forget he was a crime lord who used people and then killed them when he didn't need them anymore? After a little more investigative work, Winger is able to pinpoint the makeshift care center where Dr. Matthew was being forced to care for Finch and his gang. At the same time, Dr. Matthew was being attacked by Finch's goons, and in the recovery area of this illegal care center. He's taking blows. He's starting to get real dizzy. I mean, it's 2-on-1. It was never going to be a fair fight when it comes to these guys. And that's when something truly incredible happens. Winger comes flying in through the doors to bust Finch and his goons, and he sees the beating that's happening. Now, Winger immediately just starts submitting this gang of thugs, like that one Ben Affleck movie where he's just like shoving people through the floor, and he ends up saving Matthew from a life-ending altercation. Now, despite all of these robberies and carjackings and extortive malpractice and illegal rings, some good still does come from this. Winger is able to reinstate Dr. Matthews' license himself after learning about the circumstances that his brother was putting him through. And Winger also got to ask Dr. Matthews all about his late father. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Killed Off. If you enjoyed this, I hope you leave a like, leave a comment, and share this with a friend who you think might like it as well. The story that this, quote, true crime case is pulled from is from the Batman the Animated Series classic called Paging the Crime Doctor. It originally aired on September 17 of 1993. Do you have a favorite episode of something a little bit scary or suspenseful that you want me to cover in this style? Leave a comment below. I'll see you in the next one.